Take a seat.
And I think Penny put out a very effective challenge to everybody in the room, which people should be focusing on. Did you, Patrick, want to offer us some insights from a learning perspective out of the session as a whole?
It's very difficult to follow that.
It is quite difficult to follow that. That's why I'm giving it to you.
Diplomats.
Well, Claire did want the mic, so she can go first if you like.
I think what I'd like to say is basically two things. I was going to say business schools in general, but I can't talk about business schools in general. I can really only talk about INSEAD. We do try hard not to be an ivory tower. The reality is not what was going on in the building next door here. The reality is what's going on the street. And not just this street, but the one next door, and in the next country, and the next continent. In a Singaporean context, as my presence here, I think it symbolises, we want to get involved. In terms of specific help, we've already talked about the students available for projects, and that incidentally applies to everybody, not just the lady over there. The one thing I should make clear is I can't promise to deliver students, because I can't force them to do any project. But then it's up to you to make your project sufficiently interesting. As I said earlier, the Kranji Countryside Association was a fascinating thing we did 2 years ago. But also we can go further than that, and indeed, as Penny will attest, one of the original ideas was to do a day's training, wasn't it? It wasn't just a morning, it was a day's training, which had to be called off through a very sort of low take-up, but it's the sort of thing that can happen. Basic stuff in how to run a business and basic marketing and, distribution for beginners or whatever. So on a purely local basis, we're there to contribute our part of the partnership, of which it's been questioned sort of all through this panel. But as a very final comment, and I'd like to back right off again, zoom up like Google Earth does, and sort of see really the big picture, and make a plea again for what I said right at the beginning. Let's keep this whole thing in balance, and rather than contrasting the sort of capitalism and business as practiced as somehow bad with social enterprise, which is somehow good, I think that perhaps we could sort of bear in mind what Winston Churchill once said, amongst a lot of other things, and permit me if I read it: the inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of misery. So perhaps what this whole worldwide social enterprise, call it what you will, movement can do, is perhaps reduce the inherent vice of capitalism somewhat, without changing it, without abandoning it, but perhaps move to a rather more equal sharing of blessings.
Thank you very much, Patrick.
I think with the clarity of leadership that I have observed in SIP, exemplified by Penny Lowe and by Eileen, it really is a very viable platform. The issue is really how to move forward. And me and I were just whispering just now. One of the main challenges we face as people who gave out money, it's the issue on accountability. I have done a series of support programs, whether it's in Vietnam or Thailand or China, etc. That is because I was touched by some burning, passionate delivery and plea and pitch. And we did our first support. But then after that, we don't hear very much. 6 months in the running, we asked for ongoing reports and updates. We ask for further engagement. We offer empowering suggestions, but it was quiet, very quiet, and then no more noise from the other side. Now, this is really, we think this is doing good, but we need to learn doing good well. And this is really enhancing the confidence for the corporate sector to say, this counts. And I will measure that, it is measurable, and I will walk with you that entrepreneurship journey. So I have one suggestion to Penny. Instead of giants in conversation, getting people out to go and talk, why don't you have a regular session called Giants in the Making? And invite the corporates so that to take on the suggestion earlier by the gentleman of incubating ideas, sharing ideas, when we give feedback, we throw out some ideas that really look silly, and then give suggestions to refashion maybe the proposal, and have that ongoing. I think we already have that, but I'm saying more regular, and that apart from just bottom-up approach, you really need to also position yourself as a part where the wannabes can find the corporates to listen to them. A pool of corporate talents that are willing to give time, resources, attention to their ambitions. I think that's I have never been invited, let's say, except for some other proposals that are actually done by ministry, to listen to proposals. For example, in Romancing Singapore, in Partners Connections, I listened to many proposals on how they want to start up dating agencies, and we fund them. And there are about 4 corporates with me where we actually look through their business plan, we look through their forecast, we tell them whether it works or it will not work before we decide whether or not to fund. But I never invited them to a program, and maybe that's something we could think about, where we could have a monthly or maybe bi-monthly, where we listen to some of these to-be giants to come up with their crazy ideas, and then we just be the jury and just share it. I hope that is helpful.
Take a seat.